I think I have to go my own way. The dude, we've been here doing this for 14 years. The last 5 felt like 20. Before we start, ask yourself this. How does a man go from building a car business on TV across the country to quietly disappearing from the spotlight? Richard Rawlings had everything. Being famous, having money, and fast cars. But somewhere along the way, the gas ran out. What really happened when the cameras stopped filming? Stick around to find out. And if you like the real stories behind famous people and money, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because this is one you won't want to miss. Richard Rawlings, the fun guy behind Gas Monkey Garage and the hit show Fast and Loud, once lived life in the fast lane, for real and in other ways. From buying and selling classic cars to building a business worth millions of dollars, Rawlings showed the American dream. But behind the loud engines and the bright lights of reality TV, the road took a sharp turn. When the spotlight went away, Richard was left facing a quieter, more uncertain time. Money problems, failed businesses, and personal troubles began to cover up the business he built with hard work and gasoline. Now at 56, the man once known for his high-energy work style is learning that real strength isn't measured in car power, but in how you survive when the ride slows down. This is the untold story of Richard Rawlings. The rise, the fall, and the battle to keep the dream alive. Richard Rawlings' story didn't start in the spotlight. It began in Fort Worth, Texas, where he was born on March 30th, 1969. Long before the world knew his name, he was just a young kid with a love for cars and a dream that felt bigger than his hometown. From an early age, Richard was crazy about everything on 4 wheels. His father, a car fan himself, would take him to car shows and classic sales. Those early memories left a mark on him. And by the age of 14, Richard had already bought his first car, a 1974 Mercury Comet. While most kids his age were thinking about school dances or video games, Richard was out in the driveway getting his hands dirty and learning what made a machine work. But Rawlings wasn't born into money or special treatment. Before fame ever found him, he held down some of the toughest jobs you can imagine. He worked as a firefighter, a police officer, and a paramedic. Thankless jobs that built the toughness he'd need later in life. Each of these jobs taught him something different. How to stay calm in crazy situations, how to work hard under pressure, and how to keep moving when the odds were against him. But deep down, the call of business ownership and the sound of a car engine never left his heart. In 1999, Richard took his first big leap into the business world by starting Lincoln Press, a printing and advertising company. It wasn't fancy, but it was his first taste of running a company and making decisions that mattered. The business grew quickly thanks to Richard's nonstop drive and street-smart sense of marketing. But even as Lincoln Press did well, his heart was still in the garage. He knew that his true calling was building and fixing classic cars, not printing booklets. So in 2004, he made the bold decision to sell Lincoln Press. With the money he made from the sale, he bet everything on a risky new business, Gas Monkey Garage, based in Dallas, Texas. It was more than just a car shop. It was Richard's vision brought to life. He didn't just want to fix cars. He wanted to build a brand that captured the energy, attitude, and toughness of classic American car culture. With a mix of marketing skill and car know-how, Gas Monkey Garage quickly became a name people knew even before television came knocking. But when the Discovery Channel launched Fast and Loud in 2012, everything changed. Overnight, Richard Rawlings became a household name. The show followed him and his team as they bought, fixed, and sold classic cars at super fast speed, all while dealing with deadlines, budgets, and big personalities. Viewers were hooked not just on the cars, but on Richard himself. His quick wit, fast-talking charm, and never-slow-down way of thinking made him stand out in a sea of reality TV stars. For 8 years, Fast and Loud ruled ratings and brought millions of viewers into the world of Gas Monkey Garage. Rawlings went from local car guy to world celebrity. His brand exploded. Products, restaurants, energy drinks, and live appearances followed. He became the face of modern car culture. Someone who could walk the line between car guy and businessman. His story was the kind people loved. a self-made man who turned his passion into a business worth millions of dollars, proving that you didn't need a silver spoon to live the American dream. But like any fast ride, the road wasn't without bumps. Behind the scenes, the pressure to keep that speed going was huge. As the cameras captured the highs, there were lows that never made it on TV. Business decisions that didn't work out, projects that cost too much, and personal sacrifices that came with the spotlight. Still, in this part of his life, everything seemed possible. Richard Rawlings had built something out of nothing. And for a moment, it looked like the ride would never end. From firefighter to reality TV big shot, from small-town dreamer to world car icon, his story was just getting started. But as we're about to see, every rise has its fall. And even the strongest engines can stop working when the road gets rough. At the height of his fame, Richard Rawlings seemed untouchable. Gas Monkey was a household name. Fast and Loud was pulling in millions of viewers, and his brand was growing beyond the garage. But just like in the car world, even the most powerful engines can stop. And when they do, the crash can be loud. In 2014, Rawlings decided to take a bold step outside of cars with a new business, Gas Monkey Live. It was a huge music place located in Dallas, meant to be the next big thing in live entertainment. With its edgy branding and Rawlings' name behind it, the place drew crowds and had big acts. For a while, it looked like another winning move. But behind the scenes, the music wasn't as sweet. Running costs were high. Competition in the industry was tough. And the room for error was tiny. After 6 years of concerts, problems, and climbing costs, Gas Monkey Live shut its doors in 2020. It was a quiet exit for a project that once promised so much. That wasn't the only business to fall. Richard had also opened a restaurant called Richard Rawlings' Garage in 2016, a place where fans could grab a burger, buy products, and soak in the Gas Monkey vibe. It was another attempt to turn the brand into a lifestyle. The restaurant, based in Harker Heights, Texas, had a car-focused theme with flashy decorations and a menu aimed at car guys and families alike. But the food industry isn't forgiving even for celebrities. Despite the excitement, the restaurant struggled to keep steady business. And by 2019, it too was closed. And then came the biggest blow of all, the end of Fast and Loud. After an 8-year run, the show ended in 2020. It had brought Richard into the living rooms of millions and turned him into a television icon. But as the seasons went on, the energy that made the show a hit began to wear thin. Viewership went down. Creative tensions reportedly grew. And Richard himself later admitted that it was simply time to move on. The cameras stopped rolling. And just like that, one of the most successful car shows in television history came to a close. The show that had launched a brand and helped build an empire was over. These closures didn't just represent failed businesses. They marked the end of a golden time. For Rawlings, it was a harsh reminder that success in one area doesn't always move to another. And when the spotlight fades, the real test begins. Behind the scenes, Richard was no stranger to struggle. Despite the outer image of wealth and success, he's been honest about the money difficulties he's faced. He's gone broke not once, but twice. There were times when he had to rely on help from family just to stay afloat. The reality of business ownership is far more brutal than what fans saw on TV. He built everything from scratch, took risks most wouldn't dare to, and along the way lost just as much as he gained. Money setbacks are one thing, but the emotional toll is another. When you've built your entire identity around motion, speed, and success, slowing down can feel like failure. The end of Fast and Loud, the loss of his restaurant, the closure of the music place. Each event was a gut punch, a reminder that even the boldest brands can be weak. For a man who had spent years living life in the fast lane, the sudden stillness was loud. No roaring engines, no film crews, no crowds, just the hard reality of figuring out what comes next. But Richard Rawlings is not the kind of man to go quietly. These setbacks didn't end him. They tested him. They forced him to think, rethink, and figure out whether the dream he once chased was still worth fighting for. And that's where the Rawlings story begins, not in the rise, but in how he handled the fall. Beyond the fast cars, business projects, and reality TV fame, Richard Rawlings's personal life has been a winding road filled with sharp turns, steep climbs, and emotional detours. While his work world experienced highs and lows, his personal journey has been equally, if not more, up and down, marked by multiple marriages, public heartbreak, and close calls with danger that could have changed everything in an instant. Richard's first marriage was in 1993 to Karen K. Grames. It was short-lived, ending just a year later in 1994. At the time, Rawlings was still far from the spotlight, working various jobs and trying to carve out his path. That marriage quietly faded into the rear-view mirror, becoming a brief chapter in the larger story of his life. His most well-known relationship, however, was with Suzanne Marie Merrill. The two first got married in 1999, and for a while it looked like Rawlings had found lasting stability. They spent 10 years together before divorcing in 2009, but in a twist that mirrored the unpredictability of his career. The couple got back together and remarried in 2015. Fans saw them together during key moments of his television success, and Suzanne often appeared to be the steady presence in Richard's chaotic, fast-paced world. Yet, despite the second chance, their love story couldn't handle the pressures of fame, business, and lifestyle. In 2019, they divorced for the second time. This time, seemingly for good. Running a business, starring in a TV show, traveling, managing relationships. It's a high-stress environment that doesn't leave much time for rest. While he hasn't spoken publicly about serious health issues beyond the early shooting incident, the signs of burnout have been clear. Slower appearances, more thoughtful interviews, and a visible shift from constant hustle to more mindful living suggest a man who's learning to balance ambition with self-care. For someone who once measured success in car power and headlines, these personal setbacks offered a painful but necessary reset. These are the things that remind us all, even the boldest personalities, that life can't always be outrun. In the quieter moments away from the camera and the chaos, Richard Rawlings has had to face the same questions we all do. Who am I without the job? What does love really look like? And how do I keep going when the road keeps throwing obstacles in my way? He's not just a businessman, not just a TV personality. He's a man who's been broken, rebuilt, and battle-tested. His story isn't just about cars. It's about toughness. And through it all, Rawlings keeps driving forward. In the aftermath of empire building and public watching, Richard Rawlings finds himself at a key point. Not at the peak of fame, but in the quiet hum of reinvention. No longer the constant face on cable television, but far from forgotten, Rawlings continues to carve out his place in the world of custom cars and beyond. The roar of the fast and loud engines may have quieted, but the man behind the wheel hasn't stopped moving. Today, Richard still runs Gas Monkey Garage, the brand that launched him into the spotlight. Though it no longer carries the momentum of weekly television exposure, the garage stays active, fixing, changing, and selling classic vehicles with the same signature style that first grabbed fans. It's not just about cars anymore. It's about keeping a legacy that once defined a movement. The Gas Monkey name still gets recognition, and for Rawlings, it's the lifeblood of his ongoing mission to stay important in an ever-changing industry. Products remain a crucial part of that strategy. From t-shirts to hats, the Gas Monkey brand has extended into lifestyle gear, allowing fans to still wear the symbol of rebellion and speed. While the audience may be more niche than before, it's a loyal one made up of die-hard car fans who followed his journey from local Dallas garages to world fame. Richard has leaned into that niche, understanding that legacy businesses aren't always about growth, but lasting. More recently, Rawlings has explored sponsorships and racing connections that align with his roots. One standout partnership has been with FHO Racing at the Isle of Man TT Races, an iconic event that blends danger, adrenaline, and history. Much like Rawlings himself, supporting racers at one of the world's most challenging and deadly tracks isn't just a sponsorship move. It's a statement. It shows that Rawlings is still plugged into the heart of motorsports culture, even if he's no longer the one behind the wheel or in front of the camera every week. Richard Rawlings' story isn't just about fast cars, big deals, and reality TV.